Welcome to Mother Life, the weekly IRL group chat where we talk about all things career and parenting and the shit that comes up along the way. Today, there are no ads, no festive intro music. This is a special episode for all of us trying to support our friends and community through the catastrophic LA fires. For those of us who were lucky enough to have our homes spared and are trying to figure out how to help others pick up the pieces, all while we make sense of our own grief and navigating parenting our own children at the same time. For this episode, I wanted to talk to the person I always call when I feel overwhelmed. When I feel sad, upset, I just want my mom. And in this case, mom is the right person to call. Dr. Ellyn Gamberg, aka Mom, has 30 years experience as a clinical psychologist and hypnotherapist. Her practice has evolved over the decades, and she's used a wide range of tools in the therapeutic toolbox to support those who have experienced trauma. But today, I just wanted her to use all of that experience to help us understand what our people are going through, so we can figure out how best to be there for them. Because this is one of those instances where I think some of my instincts on what to do might be wrong. Trigger warning, today we're talking about trauma. Welcome to the closet. This is a somber occasion. A lot of people have actually been wanting you to be on the pod to figure out stuff about the mother of the mother. And I said, one day when we make it big time, maybe we can do that. But for right now, we're just going to focus on immediate needs. So today you are here not with your mother hat on, but with your 30 years of experience as a clinical psychologist, right? Something like that?
That is correct.
So we're here today. There's a lot going on in LA. This is a horrific time to be an Angelino. I know people across the country are feeling very scared and traumatized about what is going on here. But for those of us in Los Angeles who are, what are you moving around? Are you moving furniture?
No, I was actually
just talk like a normal person, Mom.
Okay, I know it's really hard to be both roles. I'm looking at you as the mother of the mother,
just be my mom in this moment. Like, you know how sometimes I ask you for advice when I'm like, no, I don't want your mom advice. I want your therapist advice. Like, do that. Okay.
Okay.
There are a lot of us here in LA who have been fortunate enough to be spared from the fires, but some of our closest friends, what are you moving? Don't touch a thing.
Okay, here
literally put your hands in your lap. You're fired. Don't touch anything.
Oh, no. I wanted to be on your podcast so badly. Go ahead. This is my chance. Go ahead.
Oy vey. All right. Well, I guess we have to find light in times of dark. No, Mom. So a lot of us here have been fortunate to not be directly impacted by the fires besides air quality. Meanwhile, we have friends, we have family, our community who has just been ravaged. People we are extremely close with who have lost everything. And we're sitting here like caged animals trying to figure out how to help. And the internet is flooded with resources of where you can drop clothes and where you can volunteer and where you can do this or that. And sometimes when a tragedy is this big, it's hard to wrap your head around the macro, and you want to focus on, how do I help these individual people that I know? And I, am trying to keep it in check for myself and also others. But sometimes when there's a lot of this going around, it starts to become a little bit of the me show. Like, I'm a helper, I'm helping. And that is not what these people need right now. Like, they don't need this to be about anybody. And we are dealing with an entire population who is severely overnight traumatized. So I thought it would be really helpful today if we could just, from a clinical perspective, understand what is the psychological, emotional impact of something like this, and what are sort of the signs and symptoms to look for as a starting point, because we don't know how to talk to people that we talk to on a daily basis because it's not business as usual. We don't want to harass these people with constant messages, but we also don't want them to feel alone. And so I think we're all just sitting here trying to figure out how we can be most helpful and do our best to just understand something that is impossible to understand unless you've been through it. So first, can we just talk a little bit about the sort of psychological, emotional impact of something of this scale, just losing overnight everything that you have worked so hard for in your life?
Wow. The people in shock don't even realize what has happened to them, and the
Right.
people around them do. So there's right now, when it comes to what do you say, what do you do, there's a numbness. And even after, and we're talking first about the actual victims who have lost homes and belongings, all of that. There's an emotional detachment, there's a numbness, there's a disconnect, there's the symptoms, the flashbacks, the nightmares. These are things people are going to live whether they're waking or sleeping. It doesn't matter. The immediate response of the concentration, the physical, the headaches, the feeling of hopeless, this is never going to get better, the emotional behaviors, the withdrawal, the outbursts, it changes everything that they knew in the world.
Mom went on to outline for me what types of behaviors we can expect from those who have experienced extreme loss in the fires. Keep in mind, these people are friends in our family. They weren't a homogenous group going into this trauma, and so the way they cope and process, it's just going to be different based on who they were to begin with. So, for example, Mom says that withdrawal is probably one of the most common symptoms you may see from loved ones. They may be withdrawing or detaching from you or other important relationships in their lives. They won't want to talk about what happened.
They're withdrawing, they're detaching, they don't want to talk about it. That could last forever. This is something that they, I want to say, need to work on eventually. Right now, it just needs to be recognized by others as not, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to talk about it. Right now, they don't. And that is okay, they don't.
On the other hand, we could be seeing some people experiencing hypervigilance, where they're living in a state of being triggered, bringing them back to their loss. Evacuating suddenly, looking at their homes that are now gone. That looks more like being easily startled or having panic attacks. There's a full list of symptoms that I'm going to put on the accompanying Substack to this episode. The point here is, when we're approaching our loved ones and community members who have experienced this trauma, we can't expect them to be perfectly emotionally calibrated, rational people. I know we all know that, but you might surprise yourself by how easily you want them to get over it and get into practical problem-solving mode. Because ultimately, that's what this episode's about. How do we help people who aren't going to drop everything right this minute and get into intensive therapy? How can we support them not as clinicians, but as, their support system? Some of our dearest friends have lost everything. And imagine you are at our house and they are here and they're sitting on the couch and they're not saying anything. They're just sitting there. What are you doing in that moment? How would you approach them as just a human being?
First, empathy, and letting them know, first of all, you can't feel what they're feeling because you don't want to pretend that you know. And yes, the empathy is that you're sorry. I'm here for you. What can I do for you? You can use the word imagine instead of I know how you feel. Nobody wants to hear I know how you feel. You've told me that a few times in your life. When I say it, you're like, no, you don't know what I feel. And it's like, okay, yeah. So I don't. So don't use that word. But I can only imagine how you feel. This is just a better soothing to support. The other one is ask them specifics. The what can I do to help? What do you need? And let them know that you want to make things easier. Acknowledge it's a tough time. I would say this is a tough time. What can I do for you? What do you need from me? And whenever you need that, people don't want to feel that they have to give you that answer now. They want to know the door is open, that you can do that for them at any time. And then, if they're talking, they may be someone that's withdrawn and not saying anything. And if that's that person in my house, I will let them be quiet. And I will talk and really and I know it sounds silly because we say it to parents all the time, be a good listener. We tell it to our children, be a good listener. It's okay for silence. And I have a hard time with silence, but you need
famously,
it's hard.
Famously
yes,
hard.
Famously, yes. But it's okay. You have to let people talk. So if they're in my living room and they don't want to talk, I have to give them the space to talk, which say some of the things that maybe I suggested and pause. Just let the silence be, and then if you'd like, go on to another discussion in the same arena, and that is acknowledging their feelings. And something as simple as, I know you don't want to talk about this now, but I'm just here to listen. Or I know you do want to talk about it and you can tell me anything, because sometimes people have this predetermined idea in their head of what they're supposed to feel. And letting them know they can say whatever they feel and it's okay is very supporting. And then this is a big one. Avoid minimizing or offering unsolicited advice. I know that one. That one, that's a hard one for parents. And your mom, I might have done that once or twice. But anyway, avoid it. Try to avoid it. Instead of saying things like, okay, well, at least you're safe. At least only, partially part of the house got destroyed. That's minimizing. If you reframe it, the feeling is still there. I'm here to support you. I am relieved you're safe. I know it's still hard. There are things that I wish happened differently for you, but don't give them specific advice unless they ask for it. So those are some of the things
I think that right now there's, we see our friends who are just kind of like zombies. They're just totally immobilized. And it's like, you want to almost take over for them. You want to take care of their food. You want to help them with their insurance claim. You want to just do everything for them and like go into getting their life back together as quickly as possible. But I don't think people are this early on, like just in a position to receive that or for that to be useful.
But I'll tell you what can be useful in that thought process is, it's important that we return to some normalcy.
Here, Mom recommends focusing on the basics, trying to get the essentials in order, supporting them to meet their basic needs, offering to have them over if they have kids, suggesting having the family over for a play date and dinner, offering to drop food off without the expectation of a prolonged visit.
Eventually, in a week, 2, 3 days from now, they want to help. They want to do the claim. They want to go to the bank. Then ask them, can I go with you? Would you like me to go with you? So you're creating and suggesting normalcy without overwhelming them.
The other thing is like, obviously people are having to make a lot of choices right now. And, in our everyday lives as adults, you're just constantly faced with like decision fatigue. So would you say it's useful to ask like specific questions? So instead of being like, what would you like for dinner or what can I bring you? Like, I am going to make this and drop it off at your door at this time. Is that useful of just trying to take away some of the choice, or is keeping it open-ended?
Well, again, it comes to that balance of normalcy, where if it is somebody that then not asking, but bringing it and saying, I know that you and your husband really love this, I made this, or the kids like this, I've done this. So if you don't know them well enough to know what these things are, then yes, ask, because nobody wants 15 casseroles or food that they're not going to eat or anything that they don't want. So the answer is, a short version of that is, would you like us to bring over some dinner? Can we bring over some fruit and snacks for everybody? Or can we just stop at a restaurant for you? Boom, 1, 2, 3 choices. And then let them say, you know what, the restaurant will be great, or just bring snacks. So shorten it.
Now, if you see somebody who is exhibiting some of these signs of severe trauma, what is a way as a friend, as a community member, that you can support that person without it seeming intrusive? Or like, what's the sort of statute of limitations on this? Like, how long can you expect this sort of behavior to go? Because you can't just like make somebody feel right immediately, obviously. Like, people need to feel their feelings and process. But how do we make sure that people are taking care of themselves? And what can we be doing to sort of intervene in a way that is reasonable, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely makes sense. And it's a great question because people always ask that how long, someone is at exhibit, how long do you let them go before you feel like you have to be more stern? And people want to dance around this because no one wants to make anybody feel like you're not mentally well or that you're not coping well.
Before you do anything, first monitor the behavior. Look for external signs of trauma like sleeplessness, confusion, disorientation, emotional outbursts. If you're not family, seek out a safe family member if that's an option to be a conduit for support. No one needs 10 different friends telling them they're not okay, especially if they know they're not okay. Once you or a family member has determined there is severe trauma, it's a good first step for the person closest to the affected person, family member, to contact a mental health professional first. Get some advice before you do anything.
This is what I suggest in severe trauma. They reach out to the professional. They call and say, Dr. So-and-so, clinic so-and-so, my mother, sister, who has been affected. He is having these outbursts, these not sleeping. Can I come see you? Can you talk to me? Can you have a session with me to try to help? Because each person is individual. So that is almost the first line, because if somebody called me and said, this is going on with, I would ask some questions about the individual. Everybody's background. Well, yes, my parent went through this or that, and this could be, knowing that, I would give this kind of advice. Or, this is the only house or my parents lived in for 50 years, or we just bought this house yesterday, we just got married. I need to know that as a therapist. I can give you different advice of how to first talk to that parent. So it does help because it is a family thing without you overstepping, because you may say the wrong thing. You may say, well, you're just starting your life. You can get another house. There's so many years. That's not what they want to hear. And a therapist may more tactfully and psychologically give you some suggestions when you say, well, my daughter suffers from, obsessive compulsive disorder or severe depression, and that will help the therapist.
Ultimately, a therapist will be able to help the person closest to the person experiencing trauma to understand any potential immediate red flags and identify nearby resources. Now, the other thing is, and I've noticed this just being somebody who lives in LA near where some of these fires are happening, there's like an insane barrage of people trying to get in touch with you. And that in and of itself can be really overwhelming. And all of these are well-wishers, do-gooders. How do we think about, and again, I know everybody's so different and their needs are so different, but how do we think about reaching out? Like in my mind, for me as a recipient of messages, for instance, I just created a cut and paste message and said, this is a cut and pasted message. We are safe. For further updates, see Instagram or whatever, because I literally one morning woke up to 100 messages and it felt very overwhelming to me. And I haven't even lost literally my entire fucking life. So is there something we can do in terms of how we communicate and reach out to just take the onus and the burden off of these people to be like socially responsible? Like I don't want people to feel like they have to respond. Should we be saying in our text messages, like, the first thing out the gate is, please do not feel like you need to respond to this, or something that like takes the onus off of them feeling like they need to participate? Because I think I'm already seeing people who have been affected almost have a level of guilt about not being more responsive to their community who's reaching out, which is crazy.
I mean, one thing that's exactly what you want is to know you have community and support of all the people that love and care about you. So that's where the hard part is. You want to get 100 messages, but not right now, because you want to feel very supported. Another way to do it is to be proactive. Have a friend, relative, or offer to a friend and say, would you like me to just put an automatic message out for you right now? And that automatic message is a very short statement of, for those of you that want to reach out, thank you. I so appreciate your love and support. We'll get back to everybody. And that should be enough tune for people to say, instead of writing, please don't text me right now, get back to you. You want to just make, that could help.
Now, this is where mom shows herself to be a bit of a boomer because an automatic text message blast is not actually a thing, but I do like the idea in whatever medium makes sense for you or your community to receive it, whether it's a Facebook post, Insta post, WhatsApp away message, email out of office, I don't know.
I mean, basically, one of the through lines that I'm hearing from you is like each family, each person, whatever, almost needs like one point person, one external conduit to the world, whether that be
Yeah.
to support them in their trauma or logistics or whatever. Like, there basically needs to be a designated person so that our friends and our family who are going through this aren't spending their day coordinating and fielding questions and that there's one person that's kind of supporting them. So, maybe that in part is some of the takeaway here is figuring out, for those of us who are in LA, could you be that person to somebody? And if not, is there a way that you can reach out to the point person for somebody else rather than bombarding the person themselves?
No, I think that is a major takeaway, and it doesn't have to be a person because I advise families when perfect example, a funeral. People do this all the time. The grieving person, at that moment, you have all the people around them coordinating things, and they don't even know about it. And they just show up. So to condense that, it doesn't have to be a point person. It can be a couple of point persons. It can be the point person that's going to deal with the claims, the bank, that person, and then it can be the point person who is personally going to the doctor with you, personally handling phone calls, messages. So it doesn't have to be but one or 2 point people. And then when you do that and let yourself be known in circles, emails, even in emails. This is what assistants do in life. They write, I am so-and-so's assistant. Please contact me if there's anything you need from my boss, my company, whatever. And therefore, everything goes through your assistant. So if you can find people and, in each situation who can act like that, that's probably the biggest gift you can give to and help to a friend right now.
Now let's move on specifically to kids. Obviously, as a parent, it is unimaginable to hear about schools being burned to the ground, children being displaced, pregnant women who are due any minute and just lost their homes. I mean, it is gut wrenching. And there are two pieces to my question. One is, how can people who have been affected by this trauma and this tragedy talk to their kids or engage with their kids? Because obviously the parents' brains are fucking fried and they still have to care for these children. So how do they talk to their own children? That's the first piece. And the second piece is, how do we on the outside, who are doing our best to be the helpers and our kids are home from school and they are otherwise safe, but they're not dumb, they know something is wrong, how do we talk to those kids? So first, let's start with the kids who have been directly impacted. How should their community, their parents, be engaging with them?
Well, it's interesting that you said, what do we say? How do we talk to them? First, I'll go non-verbally, how you can talk and communicate with them.
How do you show?
How do you show? And showing is the first thing. Model calmness. No matter what you're feeling, kids pick up on anxiety. They know it. They know stress levels. It's called secondhand stress. It's toxic. They know it. So whatever you need for your self-care so that you can model this. This goes to the parent that's actually has this loss and experience in this family, is, put your oxygen mask on first before helping others. This is, you need to take care of you, whatever you need to do to stay and model calmness, because they will pick up on that in a minute. The next thing is, if you...
But Mom, is that realistic? You just lost your whole house. How the fuck are you supposed to stay calm? Aren't you going to want to cry in a corner?
You are, and you should do it, but not around the children. You find that time, and you kind of put that oxygen mask, and you can use it as a visual, is that during this time, you are getting that oxygen and then coming out of your closet, your room, your house, wherever, and you are putting it. We do that as parents all the time in other situations. And I know that, that sounds like exactly what you said. You've just lost everything. And that also brings to the second point person. When you think you can't do that, you assign that to the second point person. Okay. Yeah. You just came back from wherever, the site, you came back from wherever, and you are losing it. That is not a time to be with your children. The time is to make sure I am going to visit the site, go through the rubble. When I get home, sister, friend, whatever, will you be there with me and the kids? Because that makes sure, yes, you want to be with your kids, but you want to know that the minute you tear up, you can leave, go in the other room, and point person now is playing or feeding or taking care of your kids. So be prepared
now
for that.
What do you say to somebody who says, my kids really want to go and see where our house was?
Well, that is a tough one. First of all, age appropriate. You have to, there are two schools on this. One answer for, of course, the younger ones is that right now it's, we're looking through, it's not safe. It's not safe right now.
Yeah.
And give them examples of what's not safe to go. And, for the little ones, you can say, when the policemen let us know and the firefighters say it's safe, we'll see about it. No promises. We'll see about it. Okay.
Yeah.
For the ones that are a little older and, that are asking questions, well, what does it look like? Is our fire like the one on TV and all of that? The answer is be honest. Yeah. And be honest.
Like, what age are we talking here?
We're probably talking 8, 10, and and above. You can be honest with them to a degree, again, age appropriate. You're not going to flash on the TV and say, yes, that's just like our house, or let me show you a picture. But you can be honest and describe it and say, the wall at the age appropriate level. That is the common thing, is use age appropriate description and behavior. And you can say to an 8 or 10 year old, well, the walls are not there and some of the roof isn't. So they're not seeing anything. They're creating in their own mind, which allows them to create it any way they want. And if it's healthy for them to just picture a hole in the roof, they're not going to think it's so bad. If they, want to blow it up in their mind, you can ask them what it looks like to them. And then, after your description, what do you think? And then if they tell you something traumatic, like, all the walls are down and we're suffocating, then you need to rebuild the picture on them. So do it that way rather than expose them to the horror, because that's something they won't ever forget. So, but we have another category that comes in this: the children that had to escape and flee for their lives and have an instant shock. That's a whole other category.
You mean like people who had 5 minutes to pack and leave?
Yes, that's it. And they saw flames across the street, or even if they had a half hour, they saw the flame in the distance and they knew it was coming, and parents are frantic and they're out. Those children who are then, you see their behavior, their fear, they need a different kind of reassurance. They need that big, we are safe now. Okay, we are safe now. That reassurance has to really be said over and over, because that is the moment they will never. So you can't minimize that either at any age. Well, that's not going to happen again. Even though it most likely will never happen. That's minimizing it. It'll never happen. You're safe now, and they're not feeling safe. And if they're not feeling safe, tell them that's okay, because we are not there anymore. There, separated. Yeah. So we are not there. You are in your safe bed. You are with your safe parents and family. So be, again, visual and age appropriate with that one. And then also, this is a big question too. Will we ever go home again to our house? Will we ever have another house? I mean, I'm just saying that, and I want to.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course, that's going to be their first question. When do we get to go home?
Yeah, and the first question, when do we go home? And you have to emphasize the steps. This is helpful. The steps are, explain them. See, we will be staying with, grandma. We will be staying wherever for, we don't know, blah, 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 weeks, months, whatever. Then we will start to hire, again, age appropriate. We will hire some builders to help, build things. And then after that, if the answer, and take them through the process. And then they already
And what if the answer is we're not going to go back there?
Then you same thing. The process is we are going to be finding a new home, and then we are going to look, and mom and dad or whoever are going to be looking for different houses, and we're going to tell you about them, and they're going to be safe houses, and then you go through the same process. When we find one, we'll show you a picture, and this is very much like your hospital book. Okay, this is a hospital book for.
She's
for
talking
that.
about the social stories that I've made that you can find on our Substack.
Yeah. So very much so in that process. So yes, and avoid, again, the other question, I'm just giving the tough ones, okay, are what about my friends, my school, my toys? I love them. Where are they? Because remember, a 16-year-old isn't going to care about that. A 5-year-old is.
Yeah.
What happened. And we overlooked that this is no different than you, the parent, saying, oh, what about the family album? What about our wedding album? What about, anything? To them, it's the same thing. It's their toys. That's what they care about. And you have to acknowledge the loss and discuss ways that you can replace the cherished items. Don't try to tell them that we're going to replace, a set of Legos, when they've just lost 3 of their animals they sleep with. So be aware of that.
Be aware of what's important to them.
Yeah, and then the last question, the biggest one they're going to ask, we all are asking it. I mean, I want to cry when I say this. Why did this happen?
Yeah.
Why did this happen? And we don't have an answer.
The fossil fuel industrial complex. No, sorry.
Yeah. I think a 2-year-old, 4-year-old would understand that completely.
No.
And actually, maybe a good answer, go over their head. No, but seriously, what you need to do is provide simple answers for natural events. You can make this a science project if you like. And that's the first thing. Avoid blaming anybody. Avoid blame in any way. Okay, in any way. But provide, the natural way and what nature is. I mean, they ask these questions of, why is a lizard, eaten by, an animal? And they're very upset by it. But if you start explaining nature and how it soothes it a little. And then also that creates detachment. And therefore, there is not blame, and they see it as very natural.
Got it. Now, what do you say to the child who is lucky enough to still be in their home? And, sorry, we're getting a helicopter overhead. What do you say to the children who are lucky enough to still be in their homes, but who are not in school this week, who aren't allowed to go outside, who know something is wrong and off? And I think that is a reasonable assumption to make from any child 3 and up, really, to have a sense of like, things aren't right here and I want some answers. What do you say to those kids? Because I mean, like my kid was being a little shit the other day, and I just said, and
that's my grandchild. Excuse me, that's my grandchild.
He's an angel and also can be a little shit. So he was being a little shit about something, and I just said, some children have lost their homes today, and then my husband, of course, sweeps in the room and is like, and I'm going to take over now because like I'm overwhelmed. And, he can't appreciate the scale of what's going on. But then later that day, he and I visited the firehouse and we brought them some food. And he was very emotional, the 4-year-old, because, he saw their truck leaving the fire station to go off to a fire as we were leaving. And so he knows something is up. But I also don't want, I'm his parent. I want to protect him. I want to keep him as emotionally safe as I can. So I don't know what to do. How do we talk to these kids that know something's up? My child keeps asking me, are the fires coming here?
Oh, of course. And that's where it comes to the reinsurance of safety. And it also, at the 4-year-old, I mean, at the younger age, you can do the same thing as, where will our next house be? You can say, are the fires coming here? You can't say no, they're not. But you can say, I'm going to reassure you that if they do, we're all packed up. We know where we're going. Give them steps. We're going to pack up. We're going in mommy's car, daddy's car. We're going to get ready, and we're going to go to someplace safe. So reassure them that you have a plan. Share your plan, age appropriate again. They don't need to know all the details. And I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is let them know, which I know that you do, and I think your whole generation does a great job of this, is letting them know you are there to keep them safe. I always hear that when they jump off a couch or they do things, I'm here to keep you safe. And in this same instance, we take the responsibility. We are here. We are your parents. We are going to keep you safe. So if they are in fear of that. So it's reassurance, it's calm. And for the kids that aren't in school and everything else, do what you can to keep normalcy, because the less normal it feels, they are going to feel something's up. If we all, right now, it's not normal to stay in the house and not be allowed to go outside. It's not normal.
Yeah.
So how do you bring any normalcy into your day? You try to keep it as normal as you can. Nothing's normal right now. And also you can, if with older kids, in the end of this, you can also explain new normals, how new normals work, if they're old enough to understand.
Say more about new normals.
The new normal is something that we're going to make different but good. And that is a new normal, something different, but you try to make good.
The last thing I want to ask you, I already noticed that I'm having trouble sleeping. Last night, I could have sworn I heard helicopters. I kept waking Crosby up and saying, I hear helicopters. And every time he was like, there are no helicopters. What do we do for ourselves to not go? We're all fried. We want to help. We want to keep our kids safe, but we're all fried. And these are us who didn't lose our entire lives. We're all just fried. So what can we be doing realistically in this context to unfry ourselves? Or is it just we stay fried for a while?
Well, it's a combination of both. First of all, you're describing classic PTSD, okay, of hearing things, startled, waking up in the middle of the night. And that's going to go on for a while. I know just from research and from my own experience living in New York City after 9/11, people heard fire engines and ambulances for years after after the event. And there were none. So the same thing, the same reaction is there. So what do we do? First of all, I'd like to say, meditate, but sometimes this is so overwhelming. So in keeping the calm, I think talking it out. I think the more you talk it out, meaning, I am in my own room. I am in, that mindfulness of where you are now, where you are, and that's staying present. So for that moment, you're fried, and all you can think of is this. And it goes back to that same gratitude that you have to feel of saying, to yourself, oh my goodness, I have my house, I have my children. It goes back to gratitude. The more grateful and more present you stay in what you do have and where you are, the healthier you're going to be. And that comes with practice. First, start saying it out loud, and then it becomes an automatic response.
I know we're probably all sick of the gratitude and mindfulness talk, but there is just so much research that says it's good for us and our brains. Mom says make some mantras that work for you, for your kids, and just repeat them. Make observations about where you are presently to remind yourself that you're safe, you're loved. Being mindful is quite literally making sure you put one foot in front of the other, but also looking at the ground below you to avoid the things that might trip you up.
All right, Dr. Mutha, thank you so much for being with us today. I am going to collate all the resources that you provided. We're going to share some resources on Instagram and on our Substack. And, just wishing our best to our community. And if anybody needs immediate help or support, please reach out. And your community is here for you. The mothers love you.
Yes, and this mother loves you too, especially the one that's interviewing me right now. But I love all those mothers out there in the world who are doing great things for their community and their world and making it better.
Love you, Mom.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. If appropriate, we will resume our regular episode schedule on Wednesday. Please visit the Substack for mental health resources and a list of trauma symptoms to look for.